Hi, everyone. Welcome to Port's Getting Started with Port webinar. Um, we'll be waiting for another minute or two till people join us. In the meantime, let me introduce Donald Scott. He's our solutions engineer, and he will be delivering our Getting Started with Port session today.
Hello, everyone. Good to meet you all. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you the things I love personally about Port, and hopefully you'll feel the same way after. And any questions you have, feel free. Really looking forward to making sure everyone who's joining gets the most out of this session. So thanks for joining, everyone, and we'll wait a few more minutes for others. That's what I mentioned. And just let me know when you think we should get started, Ronnie.
Yeah, let's get started. Again, feel free to ask any questions you'd like in the Q&A, and Donald will start with the demo report.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to stop sharing my slideshow and jump into demo. All right. All right. So just to set the stage a little bit, not certain, the level of familiarity with the different folks who are in the room today, but just at the highest level, I'd love to talk about kind of what I feel is valuable and useful about IDP technologies in general, and then port specifically, how we add value in ways that others do not. So from my point of view, the IDP, the internal developer portal specifically, should be for development organizations the central location, or anyone in your organization, whether they're directly in the development organization or in some adjacent organization, think things like security or even finance and HR. If they need information about the happenings within the development organization, they should be able to come to a singular place to get that information and get those questions answered. And that place should be the internal developer portal. Anytime someone, again, a member of the development organization or other member of your company in general, needs to perform some operation within the development organization, that should be really seamless as well. And they should be able to come to a central place, a central location to initiate those operations without having to be cognizant of the technical complexity behind those operations. And so from my point of view, that is why internal developer portals were accepted and why they exist. So with that said, I want to dive into a demo of what I think is uniquely valuable about Port. So I'm going to focus today on two areas. There are many areas of the product that we could go into, but from a getting started point of view, we'll start with high-level concepts such as the catalog, Port catalog, and we'll talk about self-service actions in Port to kind of address both those concerns, information and operations. So what I'm sharing right now is the Port UI, sort of the homepage of a Port UI. If you were to create a Port tenant, and by going to getport.io, and you create a new tenant, you would have a homepage like this. It wouldn't be as populated as this one. And by the way, I'm demoing out of a public demo environment. The URL here is demo.getport.io. You can play with this at any time you like at your leisure. I'm going to drive a demo from it as well. And it is designed to show kind of the art of the possible, many different kinds of use cases that folks like to try through IDP. You may be interested in some of these, not some of them. One of the core tenets of Port is that you can design the portal that you want. You don't have to have everything that's in the public demo. You can have more than is in the public demo. Whatever you need to suit your needs, you can build with Port. Okay? So that said, let's talk about service catalog. Let's talk about, let's say, a day in the life of, let's say I'm an engineer, an application developer, right? And let's say I have a question. We operate in microservices with a microservice architecture. I'm responsible for a few services that my team operates, but often I need to interact with other services that provide capabilities that I need. So generally, what I might do, and this varies across the organization, but it is generally similar, that the process for discovering that information is prohibitively complex. Either you're relying on tribal knowledge, having to ask folks, or unmaintained, unreliable documentation, Confluence, GitHub, other places. It's insanely difficult, in often cases, to get basic information about your services. It should not be. So in the world of Port, the way we address that is with our catalog capability, and we have many different kinds of catalog. We'll focus primarily on service catalogs, cataloging all the services in the organization. So if I go to the catalog area here, And you can, like as I mentioned, we have many different types of catalogs, and that in fact is one of the unique values of Port. We don't just focus on services like other IDP providers, but you can literally catalog any object or information of interest for you. But let's focus on services today. So I'm on the service catalog page. And so what I'm presented with is a list of all the services that are currently active in my organization. And so any service that I have a question about, I need information about, I should just be able to gather that, from this view. So let's say I have a question about the pricing service. I need to price something in my service. So I want to leverage the pricing service and I need to understand its APIs, other information about it. So I should just be able to come here, type pricing, that's my service, and go to a page like this one that gives me all the detail that I need for that particular service. And as you can see here, there's a wealth of information about this service, inclusive of its APIs. If I go to the spec page here, I can actually take a full look at the API for the service. It is fully here, documented within the portal. I don't need to go to some external place to figure out this information. There's lots of other information here. We won't go into all of it because this is a getting started demo here. But some of the things of interest and import are the notion of scorecards. So I can, about any catalog object, inclusive of services, I can measure anything that I want to measure about that service. So in this case, we've got scorecards, which are measuring various things about the service, things like service health, right? So I can measure various things about the service health. Mean time to resolve. Is it under 4 hours for the service? It is not. So this service is failing its scorecard. So I can really measure whatever I want about the service using scorecards. Let's go to the overview page where we began. As I mentioned, there's a wealth of information here about the service. And a key point to take away from this area is that the information presented here is defined by you, by your team, right? Teams are not always interested in the same things across companies. So you have the flexibility to design exactly what information you present to your users, your developers, in their portal, in your version of the portal. And that may seem like a simple thing, but you'll find as you explore the portal space that not all providers give you that level of flexibility. You have to fit into their box of what they mean when they say service, which may be difficult for you to do. But Port, again, a core tenet of ours is flexibility. Because of the shortness of time, we won't go into the details of kind of how we achieve that flexibility, but please feel free to reach out on the community for further details on that. So you can design the information that you want here. Point number one here. Now, let's go to some of the more unique facets of how Port does catalog. This in fact is one of them, the flexibility. But also, if you look below in this area, this is a very, very powerful concept. This concept of related data, data that is related to the service, but is not directly about the service, right? So if I look below in this area here, I can see that not only do I understand the high level data about the service, such as, what is the Slack channel? Is it currently healthy? Who's on call for it, etc. But I can understand, is my service running anywhere in the world in my environment today? Now think about that, right? Usually, if a developer has to answer that question, he has to go to a multitude of places. He has to go through a deployment process. Whatever your CI/CD tool set is, he has to deploy his service, then he probably has to go to your observability toolchain to figure out, did the thing deploy properly? Is it running somewhere, right? So it's a whole mess of information to untangle, and it's time consuming. Developers are spending, 50, 60, upwards of 50, 60% of their time just searching for information. And they should be focusing 99% of their time ish on developing new features. So in this case, I can just, in the portal, I can go ahead and click on any of these instances to see where my service is running. So I see I have the pricing service running in production. Well, let's take a look at that. Okay. So I can hop over to this view, and now I can see that I'm presented with a different set of information because I'm no longer looking at the service itself, but I'm looking at an instance of the service running somewhere in the world. So we're now looking at a running instance object, right? And so this idea of mapping related information together really allows you to answer very, very complex questions that involve many, many different data sources, APM tools, CI/CD tools, security tools, cloud tools, etc., to connect the dots between all that information so that you can really, really quickly and efficiently discover answers to questions, common questions that you have, right? Okay, so now I'm looking at a running instance of the service. So I have different information, right? I'm looking at what is the throughput of this service running? What is the image that is deployed for this instance of the service running somewhere? Okay, I'm looking at things that are relevant in the context of a service that's running. What environment is it running in? And again, this information here is also customizable by you, right? So everything about the portal is customizable. without, and you might be imagining to yourself, with customizability usually comes complexity. That's not the case with Port. All this customizability comes with the push of a couple of buttons in the portal, and we'll talk about how some of that works. Okay. All right, so now that I'm looking at a running service, okay, the story just continues to propagate from here. I might be interested for this service that's running, okay, in a Kubernetes cluster somewhere, for example, are there any outstanding issues or alerts for that service? And as you can see below, I have information that is related to the running service, right? So now I can look at not only know that my service is running somewhere, but I can see if it has any relevant alerts on my observability tools. And you can see down here, I have three in this case, all aggregated. We got alerts from Prometheus, okay? We have alerts from New Relic, okay? And who knows how many observability tools that an organization might have, and how many places, how many screens developers have to look at to get basic information. With the portal, they shouldn't have to do that. Everything is here, present and connected in a logically meaningful fashion for the way that you do business, okay? Now, this concept of relationship mapping exists only in Port, right? And as you can see, it's very, very powerful for allowing you again to answer very basic, also very, very complex questions. The key is efficiency, very, very quickly, right? And a singular UI, not having to jump around from your in your organization. So that is a concept of relationship mapping, okay? So now let's go back to where we started. Okay, we were reviewing information about an existing service, the pricing service. And so that's kind of the first tenet I talked about. Information discoverability should be very, very easy in the portal. The second piece is operation. Okay, I need to get things done, right? That aren't necessarily related to my job directly as a developer. My core responsibility is developing new features that make customers want to use my company's products more, right? Okay, but I have to do things like be familiar with our CI/CD tool chain. I have to be familiar with our observability tool chain to get my work done, right? Okay, so the portal should solve those problems and remove that complexity. So let's say I don't have to I'm in my service catalog, and my goal right now is not to discover information about an existing service, but I've gotten a new request from my manager or from the business. We have to build a new service for some reason. Okay, so a common problem in development engineering organizations is the concept of how do I start a new project, right? Very, very basic question, right? But uniformly complex across organizations that I deal with, right? Because everybody has a different process in terms of what their golden path is for bringing their service online. It needs to be connected to Circle CI. When you do it, it needs to have a repository in GitHub that has a README. It needs to be connected to my Sonar queue, so that it can deploy properly and be observed, right? And developers often have to, again, rely on tribal knowledge or inconsistent and fragmented documentation to put together all the parts. And what that means is long lead times to service delivery and many, many errors along the way, right? And frustration for DevOps, frustration for engineering, frustration for the business because things are taking too long, okay? So that shouldn't be the case in 2024. And with Port, it isn't, right? So any operation that I need, like scaffolding a new service, I'm in my service catalog, I want a new service, okay? I should just be able to push a button like this and get a new service, right? And you can with Port. So I go plus service, I get a new service, scaffold a new service, and then I can come in here, and instead of having to hop around Slack and Confluence and ping my partners and other people in the organization to figure out how to get this done, ping DevOps, file tickets, ticket ops, I just come in here and I fill out the form that's presented to me. Okay, I want a new service, new service, 1,000, let's say. We have tons of services, okay, and I just need another. Who's going to own this? My team. I'm on the front end team. Great. Okay, what type of service is it? It's going to be, a shipping service, okay, because I need a shipping service. Okay, it's going to be written in Go. All right, and then I should just be able to click execute, and I get my new service without having to think about it. And that's exactly what happens, right? So I click the button, something happens. I can see that something has happened. I go to the screen here. I get some log trace, and I can see, hey, the operation was completed, and apparently I have a new service, and I didn't even have to think about it. There's no thought in that, right? I don't have to hunt around Slack all these things, right? And so now I should just be able to go and observe details about that service because it's part of my catalog, just like everything else. And this tight integration between what we call self-service actions, which you just saw me execute, scaffold a new service, and our catalog is a really, really tight integration. And that is also unique about Port, right? So now I've created my new service and I can go to my catalog. And just like for the pricing service, I have a catalog entry that looks exactly the same. Okay, looks exactly the same as my pricing service, even though I just built it, right? Because we scaffolded it according to the golden path because we use a port self-service action and we weren't doing manual steps. I can see it's already connected to Slack. I have a Slack channel. It's connected to SonarQube. It has no code yet, so it doesn't have any issues, but when it has code, it will be scanned. Everything that needed to happen to make my service come online and come online properly in such a way that it falls into the right process chains happened for me, and I didn't have to think about it. So now all I have to do is go to my SCM repository where the service lives and check out the code and start writing features. Okay, so so that's the beauty and the magic of the portal. And of course, there's a little bit of mystery here. We're not going to dive too deep into details about how this works, but thematically, this is the experience you would want to deliver, for your users in terms of information discovery and in terms of operation initiation and completion of tasks that need to get done. Okay. So, so now we talked about how we can leverage the port catalog. We saw that, port doesn't just catalog services, but we catalog many, many different things, right? Issues from observability, issues from security, pull requests, whatever is of import to you, you can build data models in port and to reason about those things. So now I'm going to show you briefly how we think about data modeling in port. I'm not going to go into the details because we don't have enough time for that today, but I wanted to kind of peel the onion back a little bit for you. So let's go to what's known as the builder area of port. Okay, and this is an area that would not be exposed to users, but just the folks who are developing the portal, maybe your platform engineering team or whoever is responsible for designing the portal on behalf of their users. But as you can see here, this is where we design all of our data models. So you saw me interact with a few data models, and you can see there are many here, right? Because we can model anything. So if I just type a service data model, that is the data model that is driving our service catalog. You can see there are many, many different fields that I can present to a user about my services. And remember, I told you these fields are user defined. You have complete flexibility to decide what is presented to your users. You want to add a new property to any data model like a service, you just come in here and you click new property and you add whatever property you like. And then from henceforth, every service data model will have that property for all data models of that type, for all services in this case, right? You cannot do that in most IDP solutions, and the ones that you cannot do it easily, but very, very easily import. And by the way, I will mention that everything you see me doing in the UI is also doable via API by various types of APIs. We have a RESTful API that you can use directly. We have Terraform module that you can use if you use Terraform, but you can treat your port portal, you can treat it as code, so you can track all changes to it over time. Okay. So I want to peel the onion back just a little bit on that one. And then the final thing I want to do before we go into Q&A is, again, this is our public demo environment. So you can go here and play with this and do everything you saw me do, after the fact, after this. But I want to show you how this is our public demo. So it has lots in it, and it might seem a little overwhelming. I want to show you what my personal portal looks like because it doesn't have all these things in it, and it's a lot more tangible. And I can actually show you some real examples in there. So I'm going to switch over to my personal port portal. Okay. So if we come here, this is my personal port portal. If I go to the builder area, you can see that it has just a few data models, right? So only the things that I need, that I care about, right? I don't have to boil the ocean, right, to deliver value. I can reason about the things that I need, just the use cases that are important for my developers, the high leverage use cases that help them get their work done better. I can build those out really easily and port. And all these data models, as you install our integrations, they get built for you. You don't have to build these yourself. If I install an SCM integration like GitHub, I will get service data models, I will get pull request data models, other data models, I will get scorecards, dashboards, all these things will just appear for you as you install our integration. So ease of use is a big focus for us as well. So I have a few data models defined here. I will go to the service catalog. I have a service catalog just like the one that you saw in the public demo. It doesn't have as many services in it because it's just my personal portal. It has just 4 services in it. Okay. They are exactly the services that are in my GitHub repository that's driving my service model definition. So if I go to my GitHub, you will see these services here. In fact, there are just 3 services and you saw 4. That's because we have one mono repo. We actually have the ability to map mono repos and poly repos very easily as well. And so what you saw in my portal is we have broken down the mono repo modules so that they show up in our portal as I expect them to. So we have Austin service, module 1, module 2, port actions. Okay. So now I want to show you how would it look like to actually do that operation that you saw me do in the public demo, right? If I want to actually create a new service, how does that actually work, right? It's just as easy as you saw in the public demo, but I'm going to make it real for you here. I want a new service. I click my button here. I need to have a similar self-service action. You can define whatever self-service action you want very, very easily. So I'll go into this, we'll scaffold a new repo. I'll call it the same one like I did earlier, new service 1,000. Obviously, I don't have 1,000 services. Let's do this. Let's make it real. New service 5, right? Okay, new service 5. So I click execute, just like I did in my personal portal. And what happens? Okay, some stuff happens. All right. I get a view details just like I did in my in the public demo. But some actual stuff is happening here, and I'll just take the covers off again for you. What's happening? This is how self-service actions work in Port. Is I'm actually calling what we call a backend, and the backend is what actually does the work. In my case, the backend is a GitHub workflow that's running currently. So if I go to my GitHub, I can go into this repo where that workflow lives. And if I go to the Actions tab here, I can see that in my GitHub, I have a GitHub workflow that's running to create that new service for me. And it's finished. It just finished now in 29 seconds. So I should be able to go back to my portal. And the idea for your users is that, frankly, they don't even need to necessarily know that you use GitHub. I mean, they would. I mean, it's a common tool, but the idea here is that you're obscuring all this complexity. They don't need to know what's happening behind the scenes. They just get the form, they fill it out, and they get the thing that they need, right? Okay, so my job is finished. So I go back to my personal port portal. It says, oh, okay, cool. I have a new a service. I actually have a GitHub link to it. Okay, here's, I can just go right here and start checking out the code, start writing features. Okay, so I go to the catalog. Okay, so I see I have a new catalog entry for my new service. Let's go to our catalog and see if it's there. Services, okay, cool. I have new service 5, right? Just like in the public demo, right? And I can see it's already being checked against my scorecards. Everything happens automatically. It's not passing, a couple of my scorecards, it's not using the right language, etc. So everything that you expect to happen happens because it's following the golden path that the self-service action was designed to follow, okay? So now I go to my GitHub, I should also see a corresponding additional repository. And let's see if I do. I'll go to the main org here, and now I have 4 repositories. Yes, I have new service 5, which is a Go service, right? And using this sort of mechanism, you can literally have your engineers accomplish whatever work you need them to do at the push of a button. And I will show you, if I go back to the public demo, just to give you a little bit of the art of the possible, all the self-service actions that we have defined in the public demo. And as you can see here, they're myriad. There are many, many things. And these are just examples, right, that people commonly want to do. But you can literally build a self-service action that allows your users to get very complicated work done in your organization with just the push of a button, okay? And that is the beauty of Port. Um, and so these things together, the unique ways that we manifest catalog use cases in Port and the way we combine them with the self-service action and the flexibility that we provide in both those contexts in terms of designing your UIs and your catalogs and designing your self-service actions and exposing them to your users is how we deliver the value that we do. Port is a singular place that folks should come for information about your development organization and when they need to initiate operations, complex operations in your development organization. They should be able to do all those things from a singular hub. And that hub, from our point of view, is the best the best choice for that hub is Port. Obviously, that's our opinion, but I'm hoping you agree at this point. Um, so with that said, I will take questions. There are many, many features that I didn't go into. Again, this is a getting started demo. One of my favorite features, in fact, actually, since we have a few more minutes, I'll show you, is we just released an automations capability. And actually, I'm glad I mentioned this because this capability is no other IDP provider has it, right? So you saw me execute a self-service action. I did some really cool work, but I did it manually. We just released a capability called automations where we can actually have things like self-service actions run automatically in response to stimuli that are happening in the catalog. Okay. And I have an example of that in my personal portal here. Let's go back here. If I go back to the builder area, I have this area called automations. So I go here and I can see that I have one automation, okay, that is designed to alert me when my service health degrades to a certain level. And I'll just show you quickly what it looks like. Basically, we have the data model that we want to operate on, which is a service data model in this case, and we have some expression that defines the change we want to respond to. In this case, it's simply when the property of any service in the catalog changes to unhealthy. And then we have the thing that we want to do when that becomes the case. And in my case, I want to run, again, a GitHub workflow, which sends a message to a Slack channel, and that can happen automatically, right? I don't think I have time to show you the full workflow, but when I run this and or when I service degrades to unhealthy, automatically I get a message in a Slack channel that tells me that, and I can respond to that automatically. This is a capability that only Port has. We released it, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and so we're really innovating and trying to think about not only the needs of our customers and potential customers today, but what will people need tomorrow, right? And we want to be first to market to delivering that value to everyone. So we're constantly innovating. This is just the latest innovation. There are many, many more that I can't go into today. But with that said, we'll go ahead and take some questions. Yeah. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you, Donald. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If not, that's okay too, and we will send you a recording of this session. So let us know if you have any questions, and if not, we will finish the webinar.
And in fact, Ronnie, one more thing I want to show, just for sake of innovation, because another cool thing that we have that others don't recently is we recently added the ability to track metrics over time via a line chart visualization. So I believe I have one handy somewhere just to show briefly. If I go here, let me see, visualization. Yes, for all my teams. So I want to look at, let's say team vision. If I go into the dashboard for team vision, I can see that every catalog object we're looking at teams now has the ability to have its own personal dashboard as well. And in the dashboard for our team catalog objects, we have lots of nice line charts defined for them. We're tracking things like deployment frequency over time, incident count over time. And then what I can do with these nice metrics, and by the way, like I said, with scorecards, you can have metrics on any catalog object. Then I can start to build very, very nice visualizations like these, where I can build dashboards around my current security posture, right? And I can do it in aggregate across all my tools, not just Sneak, not just Wiz, but I can build a dashboard across all my tools. Helps me to reveal and find issues across tools in my portal. I can build a dashboard like this, where I talk about engineering efficiency in aggregate, maybe for my senior engineering leaders, right? They want to understand not on a per service basis, but they want to understand if we're hitting our metrics in aggregate. So what is our deployment frequency overall, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So all my data, I can then build really, really sophisticated visualizations on top of that data to make insights really, really easy to discover as well. I could go on, but I'll stop here.
Miguel has a question just about that, actually. Spot on, Miguel, that this can actually show software engineering intelligence metrics. And what he's asking is, how would this work if we need, for example, DORA metrics, and what are the entities that need to be updated?
Yeah, so we actually have out-of-the-box computations for things like door meshes as that becomes more and more common. So I believe we actually have that built out. This is still the public demo. So if I go to, let's see, one of my services, go back to service catalog, and then let's choose the pricing service again. I believe in the scorecard area, we're tracking some door metrics. Yeah, right here. So we have a whole scorecard section with just door metrics, and here are some of the ones that we have built out: deployment frequency, PRs, lines of code counts, first time to review your PR, that should be under 3 days in our case. So yeah, we can build out door metrics and any metrics that you want, inclusive of door metrics, and then I can build dashboards on top of those metrics. This is just for the pricing service, but I can look at these same metrics in aggregate across all my services as well in the dashboards, and I can track initiatives over time as well to make sure we're meeting those things. In fact, I think I have a few initiative dashboards. Let's see. API dashboard. I don't think I have an initiative dashboard here, but the idea here is I can make a dashboard where I give guidance about, hey guys, these are the metrics that we're trying to track, and here's every team. Here's where you're tracking according to the metrics, and this is where we need you to improve. The point though is that I can take those metrics that I've done on a per service basis, and I can build aggregate views, just like the one you're looking at, but I can also have specific views to track what we call initiatives against metrics over time as well. But yeah, great question, and absolutely.
Any
Any other?
additional questions? I do see, oh, this is the one that we already answered. So let us know if there are any other questions. And if not, we will finish the session. Many thanks to you. Actually, if you go into the public demo that Donald mentioned,
Ah,
there are also links to the docs in almost every place, so you can actually see how it was built.
excellent. Yeah. And so I just found an initiative dashboard. So here's an example, right? So we have a goal that we want to track. Okay. Make sure that every service has Sonar Q set up on it. And now I can just look at all my services. And for, let's say, the visual storytellers team, all the services they manage, only 55% of them have a Sonar Q project. And you may be asking yourself, how is this possible? Like, we're using self-service actions to follow our goals and path. Well, not everyone will be a good citizen and play by the rules, right? Right? And use the tools that you set up for them. So this is a great way to highlight that and bring everyone into the fold, right? Oh, guys, you aren't using the self-service actions that we built out. It'll make your life easier. Just use this action here and it'll do everything you need to do. You don't have to think about it. So this is a great way to reveal gaps, for even, in the organization where people are migrating towards using the portal instead of doing the old things that they used to do. You can highlight that and make sure everybody gets on the same page. So again, great question. And again, I can go on for days. I'm finished.
So thank you all. And thank you, Donald. And feel free to ping us if you have any additional questions. We'll send you the recording. Thank you for coming, for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.